Hi everybody, this is lesson 6 and this is our last lesson. So this lesson focuses on using blogs in your lesson plans. So normally we would teach the nervous system, and there are various ways, of course, like I mentioned, of teaching this. You can lecture on this or you can use various. I of course recommend using multimedia activities, but this is something that students can do on their own time individually. So before this class you would have your students set up a blog. This is done through Blogger, through Google, or your students can use other sites. This of course depends whether this is high school or college. So this is an example of my site for my multimedia class. And here I would just have the different posts, and then here is an area where students can comment. So the way that this blog works is you would have your students post the first blog post, let's say Sunday night, and they can use their lecture notes or whatnot. So this is an example, like I said, of the nervous system, and this is a specific disorder that was assigned for the student. So they're basically asked to describe what carpal tunnel syndrome is without going into too many details. So you don't want your students to use Wikipedia or something like that. You want them to use their textbook or their notes, and then you also want them to list as many options as you can think of that would basically support a patient's treatment, rehab, or management of this disorder. So this is something the student would do on their own time based on the material that you presented in class and their additional research. And then for the follow-up posts, you basically want to choose two people's blogs, and you want to review or provide extensions to those posts. You don't want your students to say something like, this looks good, this looks bad. So basically you would share all the links to different blogs, and the students would randomly go on, and like I showed here, they would basically click comment. They would fill out a comment based on the blog post, click publish, and then those comments would appear, and then you can go and grade them. And this is another way of being interactive and having your students actually talk to each other, even if it's outside of class, which would be perfect because you want them to continue working not just in your lecture or your classroom. You actually want them to do work on their own.